Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, a game where you'll find yourself looking for a bath,
What can I do for you?
My body is in need of rest and relaxation.
annoying the locals,
Do you know anything about the devil?
Mother of God! Such blasphemy!
annoying them some more,
God be with you. Keep the peace, and we'll stay friends.
What a load of shit.
oh, and trying to survive and fight through the turmoil of a civil war and personal trauma.
My name will open any gate. Fuck.
Hello and welcome to this video, which is just going to be a thoughts video on Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. This isn't a review, I'm yet to finish the game. I'm currently sitting at around 50 hours, which to anyone who's played the game knows that those are baby hours, and that this game never actually ends. I'm pretty much convinced. I'm just going to keep getting distracted, sidetracked, and basically doing anything that isn't pushing the main story forward, because dear God, every single time I take a step out into those lands, someone comes up to me and is like, hey, have you heard about this? And then I go, no, I haven't heard about this. And then I end up in a murder mystery, getting drunk with someone, trying to be someone's wingman. It's insane. But before I get ahead of myself, let's just catch you all up if you've never played Kingdom Come Deliverance 1 or 2. Across both games, you play as Henry, a normal guy who just likes drinking, pining after the ladies, occasionally getting into a few scruffles and pranks, but Henry seems to be a magnet for bad luck, seeing as in the first game his whole village gets burnt down, his parents killed, the sword that his father's made gets stolen, and as you can imagine all of this takes a toll on poor Henry, but he still manages to get through with a slightly goofy smile and silly sense of humour, whilst also being quite hungry. All in all, he's a very just likeable protagonist. Like I say, he has all these traumas, all this tragedy in his life, but he faces it with a bravery and a sense of humor, which instantly makes him very endearing and makes me want to keep playing as him. Since this isn't a game where you get to make your own character, it is important that you feel some sort of connection with the character you are playing as, and I think this game largely excels where you play as this very likable, slightly goofy guy who is just a very ordinary person who is faced with these incredible circumstances. KCD2 picks up not long after the first game, where Henry is now a bodyguard to a young noble called Hans Capon, and they've been sent on a mission to kind of liaise and try and gain favour with some local lords in this land to help with the civil war efforts. But before they can, you've guessed it, some more bad luck hits them right in the face, and before you know it, you as Henry are set back to zero, a peasant covered in mud, no one likes you, and it's down to you at the beginning of the game to climb the social ladder, get some money, and basically just stop being a peasant. Mutt! Oh my God, Mutt! He punched Mutt! How dare he! He punched Mutt! Fucker! He fell. He fell. Sorry, just quoting Gimli in Helm's Deep there. Now, normally in these sorts of games, I kind of get frustrated with that kind of reset to zero thing, where you at the start of the game, you've got some cool armor, you've got a good sword, and then something in the story will happen during the sort of tutorial area where you're set back to zero, and there's like, oh, why are we doing this? Why do this to me? But in this case, call me crazy, but I actually kind of liked being a peasant. This game excels at making you just enjoy the experience, which is kind of key in this kind of game where, like I say, you start off with nothing, no money, barely any clothes off on your back. When you're really released into the open world sandbox portion of the game, you have nothing. You're just left to your own devices. We've tutorialized you on all these mechanics, be it the alchemy, the combat, the sneaking around, all of that stuff. Now utilize those things that we taught you to gain money, bring people over to your side, and of course level up Henry so he is more capable of the missions that you're going to be taking on, which is something else I really liked about this game. It gave me a reminder of like the old Bethesda games where you do stuff and you'll level that thing up. The more you use a sword, the more sword skill you get, the more you sneak around, the more sneaking skills you get, etc, etc, and then you get perk points for all the individual skill sets, and they give you little buffs that'll make things easier, and it really does feel like you're building up your play style. And some of these things aren't just straight up combat things, it's things like alchemy, blacksmithing, and all of these have little mini games that you do, and honestly I find them kind of satisfying just to sit in a hut and pour out herbs and boil some wine and hope for the best and get that top tier potion, or just smack some hammer over a fire. flip it over and bang it out. You know what Sorry, even though I couldn't take that part seriously, but it's true though. I do enjoy the blacksmithing, even though it's just literally hitting that bit of metal. And then as for the sandbox, truly for the first time it feels like in a while, this feels like one of the most immersive sandboxes I've played in a long time. Like, the villagers that you come across all look like they're going about their daily lives. They interact with one another. Sometimes those interactions can end up in fistfights in the middle of the street.
But he wasn't gawking at me.
He bloody was, I saw him. If you're looking for a fight, bring it on. I'm not afraid of you, and I can look at whoever I want to. I mean, look at her tits, eh?
Come on then, fucker. I'm gonna bash your face in.
Send my greetings to the devil. The next blow will send you to hell.
It feels like all these NPCs have a attitude towards you based upon what you're wearing, what actions you've done, which actually feels important in this game because depending on what clothes you're wearing, where you are charisma-wise, what your reputation is with the individual you're talking to, and your reputation in the area that you're currently in, can all factor in to how they're going to react to you if you're trying to haggle prices with them, or if it's a story quest where you might want to try and convince them to your way of thinking. All of that plays a part, and it feels very natural, and it feels like the NPCs have a genuine reaction to however you've been playing the game. If you've been sneaking around, stealing things, naturally, those NPCs aren't going to trust you, and even you might get the guards called on you the moment that you get spotted, and maybe they'll brand you, or worse, they may try and execute you if you've been particularly psychotic. I would never do that, by the way. I'm a very good boy. I have never once pickpocketed, stolen, nor murdered anyone. It's all good. It's fine.
Hey,
No,
get your hands out of there.
you didn't see that.
All right, I'm going to get a guard.
No, don't do that. We can talk. 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 We can talk about this.
Ow! Are you looking for...
This is escalated. This is escalated. Man, he's tough. He's too tough. He's too tough. Why is this man so strong?
I'd bash you in the face myself, but I'll leave that up. Show you!
The guards, you fool! You surrender to them!
I surrender.
I surrender! There's no point in...
Okay. I don't have that money. I was beating up a priest. I don't think I'm going to be able to get away with any of these. Oh, I guess we'll try it.
You're wrong. Oh, come on. That was obviously self-defense.
I'll show you self-defense, you bastard! I'm not falling for your tricks.
Oh, well, we're going to get whipped. But truly, the game is just transportative. It feels like it's taking me to this medieval place and time. I played a little bit of the first KCD game, and for some reason, I just kept bouncing off of it. I liked it. I liked the idea of it, but sometimes the combat was just a little too clunky and janky for me that I couldn't get on with it, and the pace was just a little bit too slow, and just something about it just knocked me away from it. And KCD 2, I have to say, feels like it's improved on all of those little issues that I had with the first one, and I've seen people sort of criticize this game for that it doesn't feel as hard, or it doesn't feel as much of a sim as the first one did. But for me, personally, that's actually played in the game's favor, and I kind of like that it feels a little bit more gamified in that way, and overall just feels a bit more playable. Not just knock on the first game at all, but this one fits me a little bit more, if that makes sense. I think the main reason for that is that it just feels like I am constantly progressing. Like, there's always a skill point that gets flown my way after I do something, or there's always an interesting character moment or an interesting opportunity that I may have to play in a way that I might not have done otherwise. The challenge of the game is trying to think my way around the situation and how to deal with it, and be that charisma or fighting, whatever it is, I've just enjoyed trying to figure out how to get Henry through each situation. Now, I'm not going to talk too much about the main story for spoiler reasons, and as I said earlier, frankly, I haven't experienced enough of it, even 50 hours in, to really give a good overall thought and feel about it. But I will say much like I really enjoy Henry as a protagonist, I just enjoy all of the characters. They feel very three-dimensional and fleshed out, and I particularly like the relationship between Henry and Hans, even though it can be the two of them butting heads. Hans can be a pain in the ass sometimes.
We can't go climbing into the rocks at night when we can't see shit.
But they'll catch us.
Oh, you don't say, genius.
But I do enjoy this sort of frustrated friendship the two of them have, where you've got Henry, who came from essentially nothing and is now into this position of respect amongst his peers, and then you've got this young noble who kind of thinks he's a bit better than everyone else, but it's within the time period that the game is set, and you know, it's being true to that. The two of them come to clash every so often, but you can tell that there's a respect between them, and in this game that respect can go a little bit further.
Trotsky's in the middle of nowhere, so I wouldn't expect much excitement there.
God help me, my bodyguard's a monk who can't speak Latin!
But truly, I just enjoy these characters, and I enjoy that the fact the game doesn't, I don't want to say it doesn't take itself too seriously, because I think it does take the subject matter and the themes it's exploring seriously, but it knows when to be a bit cheeky and to have fun and to have a laugh with it, and make these characters more relatable because they're humorous and sometimes silly and sometimes just very over the top. It kind of puts me in mind of the movie A Knight's Tale, which I love. Obviously, it's not to that straight comedy as A Knight's Tale the movie is. There's not trumpets blasting out Queen songs, for instance. But in terms of the characters' interplay, where they have humor but they also butt heads, it kind of reminded me of that, and I love that movie. And something I didn't really realize until I started playing the game was that it was actually kind of refreshing to play in a world that was purely historical and grounded in reality. Don't get me wrong, I love orcs, magic, all of that stuff, but it was really just genuinely refreshing. And those sorts of games, the fantasy games, there's a plethora of them out there right now, and some of them are very good, some of them not so good. So KCD2 really feels like a palate cleanser to all of that, and like I say, removing all the magic and the fantasy elements makes them, I feel like, focus in on the characters that are there. It can't use the magic and the creatures as a crutch for world building. The world building has to come from the characters and the situation and the environment, and I think this game excels at doing that, because it has to. It has to use what the tools that are there within this historical setting to do it. So to briefly talk about the combat, which I brought up earlier, the first game, it felt a bit clunky and it was hard to get to grips with. They've streamlined it here, where there's less directions that you can wave your weapon around in. It's a lot more streamlined. Henry feels as a character like he knows what he's doing this time around, which makes sense given that he's much more practiced at this point. The only thing I've kind of struggled with, and maybe there's a way to be better at this, I fully admit, but I do struggle when you're dealing with multiple opponents, which is kind of the point. It's meant to feel overwhelming, but switching targets feels very hard to me. Like, I'm surrounded by 4 people. I just want to try and swing to the person who is getting closer to me, closing the distance, but I often just fling the mouse off in a direction and I'm looking at the sky for some reason. And yeah, that can be troublesome. That can be a problem. But overall, I have found the combat here much easier. And as I've leveled up, it feels easier. And once you unlock certain abilities for defending yourself, that makes it easier as well. But I do enjoy the fact that this is a combat system that is based in taking your time, thinking about what your opponent is going to do and trying to anticipate it. And all of that stuff, it again feels like it's based in a reality. And the sword fighting, once you get going, once you're hitting metal against metal, it's actually pretty satisfying and feels like you're in an actual sword fight. So I really enjoy that. And that's really what my focus has been. I've not experimented too much with all the other weapon options, but there are a bunch you can use, including crossbows, bows and arrows. Later down the line, there's a kind of musket thing you can get. There are also pole arms, axes, many things you can experiment with. But like I say, I've been focused on the sword because, you know, it's a medieval game. I'm basically playing as a knight. I want to use a sword. Of course I do. Another thing of note with this game that's worth pointing out is, in my experience, obviously this is purely anecdotal, and everyone's going to have their own experiences, but I've been streaming the game over on Twitch. Everyone's seen what I've experienced, and I'm continuing to play it on Twitch. I've had barely any kind of technical issues. There's been a couple of weird, like, visual glitches, like maybe a tree or something hasn't quite loaded in at a distance or that kind of thing, but barely had any kind of frame drops, not anything that's game breaking. There's been a few charming little weird, like, what was that? what was that game? That was a bit odd, but nothing that made me go, oh god, this is unplayable. I can't do this. I can't do this. Nothing. And that surprises me so much, because I saw the specs for the recommended for this game and I was like, am I going to be able to run this thing? Is this going to be a problem? But I'm running it on a 3080 graphics card and a Ryzen 7 3700X, I think, CPU. Yes, I know my stuff. I know what I have in there. I'm very technically minded, I'll have you all know. I've not really had any problems. It's been by and large very much flowing, no issues. The game looks gorgeous. I have to say, like when we were standing at the top of Trotsky Castle and looking over the view, the vista, I was like, this is beautiful. This is beautiful. And again, just transportative, took me to that place and I was like, damn, what a time. Even though this place is horrible and everyone stinks and I'm sure disease and I would probably be dead by now, I wouldn't mind living in the top of this castle looking over that view. But seriously, this game is so just nice to be in. I don't even mind just taking a nice walk through the fields, for God's sake. Like, how many games can you say that you're in an open world where you're just like, you know what, I'm just going to take a easy breezy walk through the field and something happens, but overall I'm just kind of enjoying being in the environment. So yeah, as you may have guessed, I've been very much enjoying this game. Like I said, this isn't a review. I couldn't give it like a score or anything because I haven't finished the story out. I haven't seen the game through to completion, but I am enjoying my time with it greatly, and I think it's very good. The door of this year's gaming got kicked down by this game and was like, hey, I'm coming in, and I potentially might take that game of the year right out the top. But my closing kind of thoughts on this whole thing is that this game just felt truly refreshing, to me at least. I loved playing as this kind of everyman, this kind of John McClane of the medieval world, where you're kind of silly, goofy, but you're capable, and you're just trying to find the best way through this world. You're not like the special person. You're not this person with godlike powers or the one to save everything. You're just a guy with your own motivations, your own traumas that you're working through, your own goals, and all of them feel relatable and real. And you are mixed up in this sort of greater story of this civil war going on between these two kings, and you're kind of involved in that in a certain level, but you're not the ultimate hero of the whole thing. You're just, like I say, a guy, and you're doing your best, and that's really refreshing and interesting from a video game point of view. The world feels really lived in, which I appreciate. I enjoyed how you level up by just doing things, and it feels rewarding that you do the thing, you get skills, you get a perk, and then you can see that reflected in the gameplay. You'll feel better about things, you will feel like you have improved in some way, and that the game gives you flexibility in how you want to deal with quests and side quests, that you can sneak, you can fight, you can try and convince and charm people. It just has all the hallmarks of a really good, engaging RPG, and I've been having a great time with it. And I know a lot of people have been put off from this game because they're too worried about the more sim-like things, like having to eat and sleep and all that kind of stuff, the fact that there is no fantasy stuff. All I would say to those people is that the sim, like survival elements, aren't as bad as you'd think, because I'm kind of rough on survival elements as well for myself, but they're not too bad here for me. Like, it's pretty easy early on to get yourself situated where you have a bed that you can sleep in, and you can have free food, that if you can't have any on your person, that can be sorted very early on in the game. And like I say, I found the lack of fantasy truly actually kind of refreshing. So if you're on that fence because of those elements, I would say give it a go. Maybe if you want, wait till the game's on sale, something like that. But I would say it's worth your time if you enjoy open world sandbox RPGs. If you want something new to get your teeth into that is maybe a little bit different. Even if you had issues like I did with the first game where you kind of bounced off of it, I think this one is worth your time if you want to try something out. And yeah, I feel like you'll be pleasantly surprised by it. I've even had people in my chat on Twitch who said this is a game that they wouldn't play, but they've really enjoyed watching it. And maybe, like, if the game is on sale, maybe they'll check it out for themselves one day. And like I say, this game is a very early contender for me for Game of the Year. Like, it's gonna take something really special this year to knock it off that perch for me. Like, I'm genuinely surprised by that, because this game was kind of like, maybe I'll try it, I'll see when it gets there, and I've started playing it and I've been completely captured by it. So I was one of those people who was on the fence. I was like, I don't know if this is going to be for me. I kind of like the idea of the first one, but I'm not sure if I want more of that. And here we are. I'm making a video and this is my thoughts. It inspired me so much so to attempt to make a video like I've never really made before. So I'm guessing that says something to someone. Maybe. The answer to the question, is KCD2 good? I would say, yes it is. It's worth your time if you're thinking about it, if you're sat on the fence. And if you're maybe on the other side of the fence, maybe just wait till it's on sale, and if you've got a gap, then give it a go. I don't think you'd be disappointed, honestly. I generally don't think you will be. But that's it for this. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want more of these sorts of thoughts videos on games, TV, movie, whatever it is, let me know in the comments below. If you want to join me for my KCD playthrough, we're still doing it on Twitch as of right now. That'll be linked down below. And if you have any thoughts or feelings about this game, please do let me know down below. Tell me in the comments if there's stuff about this game you don't like. Let me know. I'm fascinated to know what people's thoughts about this game are, because it really just took me from left field. And yeah, I've had a great time with it. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.
Henry, our hero Henry, the fellow who helps his fellow man. Henry, reliable Henry, he gets the job done the best he can. Oh, oh, oh.